Welcome, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio Show. I'm your host, Lorien Fenton. We're here on Inception Radio Network. As you know, it is the home of the most famous app on the planet, where you can get Inception Radio Network any time of day or night that you want. You can download, you can upload, you can just have a great old time loading away. So there you go. So get that app. It's the IRN app. It is lovely. It's got a little microphone, a little spaceship. It's got, you know what? I was laughing the other day because I was looking at the logo of Inception Radio Network. I went, wait a minute. That's the Billy Meyer Palladian ship from the 50s. Boy, we're dating ourselves. See, this is how long these spaceships have been around. It's like, oh my God, we need a new sleeker, like triangle craft in there, MJ and Bob and Joe. We got to get up to date. What's wrong with us? No, I think it's really cool that we do the throwback spacecraft. I really do. I really love that craft because it's one of the first crafts I ever really saw when I was doing research on UFOs. You know, it's the one with the 3 balls underneath it. And, you know, there's still a lot of controversy about whether those were German soldiers in those crafts or not. But, you know, it's so bizarre. Someday all the truth will come out. And I can guarantee you, folks, it ain't going to come out with To the Stars Academy, boy. Oh, my God. Well, that reminds me. Let me get the advertisements out of the way quickly here, because if it wasn't for, me doing some advertising, I wouldn't survive. I'm telling you guys, this whole thing of putting on conferences, you cannot be faint of heart to put on a conference like I put on, because seriously, I've never been through so much stress in my entire life. And every time it's over, I go, I'm never doing this again. I'm never going to do this again. And then I do it again. And stupidly, I don't know what possessed me when they asked me, November of, when was it? It was November of 16. A bunch of guys from the JFK Historical Society approached me at the November 16 Dallas conference and said, you know, we really need some help putting on a conference. And I'm like, sure, I'll help you. So I went ahead and agreed to help them. I didn't realize when they were going to put the conference on. I knew that it was going to be sometime in the spring of 18, but I just was like, well, sure, whatever. And then in March of 17, 1 year ago, they came to me and said, okay, we're really going to do it and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, great. When are you going to do it? I'm thinking May or June or April, you know, late April. They go, oh, no, the second week of March. And I'm like, oh, no. I put on Ufo Con the third or fourth week of March. They're like, oh, is that going to be a problem? And I thought to myself, you know, I'm pretty good at doing this stuff with my hands tied behind my back. I think I could pull it off. And I didn't think it would be a big deal. And then when I started doing this, I realized these guys are, you know, the people that work with me for Ufo Con, thank God. I just call them on the phone and I say, this is what we need and it's got to get done and blah, blah, blah. And it's all taken care of. I mean, it takes a lot of organizing, but they've done it with me enough over the last 4 or 5 years that I have the PA system figured out. We have the sound. We have the videographers all figured out. We have the hotels figured out. It's pretty much, it's a lot of work, but it's not nearly the stress because I know I'm covered in areas that these guys never even thought about, right? Oh my God. And I start talking to them and I go, have you ever done anything? Oh yeah, we did it, 3 years ago. So I'm thinking, oh, okay, so these guys know what they're doing. Well, then the poor guys, they're like, every turn, what do we do now? What do we do now? It's like hand holding, children. It really is. I swear to God. But anyhow, I digress. I love them all dearly, though. See, that's the problem. They're amazing researchers. These guys are so amazing that, there's I can't tell them how much stress they put me through. They have no idea, and they'll never know, and I'm never going to tell them, but I'll tell all of you guys because they never listen to the UFO show. Why would they ever listen to this show? Oh, God, it just cracks me up. I was thinking about it today. I thought, I could tell everybody in the UFO world how crazy the JFK world is. Oh, my God. Anyhow, so yeah, so the JFK Conference DC, JFKConferenceDC.com is coming up. And I'm telling you guys, this is going to be so extraordinary. Now, all the logistics are being taken care of. I'm taking care of everything. The website's up, as you guys know. The tickets are for sale. Please, if you guys can get out there this week, please try to be there, because it is truly, like I've been telling you for weeks now, and I was in tears on Monday talking about it. I'm going to start crying now thinking about it. I don't think in 2 or 3 years we're going to have any more of these conferences. It's just getting to the point where there's nobody seriously as interested as most of us that lived through it. And you have to have been bitten by there's something that happened to me on that day. And I ask every one of these researchers that the day that Kennedy was shot, what happened to you to make you do this the rest of your life? You know, that you found this path. It's the same thing I ask UFO researchers. Most of them saw something, heard something, were told something, or their father was involved, like St. John Hunt, or they were the girlfriend of Lee Harvey Oswald, like Judith Ferry Baker, or, you know, or something. There's always some little trigger, or Hugh Clark, the Navy military guy that carried the casket and was the honor guard for JFK's, burial, and took the coffin and laid it in the grave and the whole bit. But he also took the body to Bethesda. And boy, his story's something. I'm telling you. You know, no one really knows this. Maybe you guys all do, because you're pretty smart out there. But when Hugh Clark and the rest of the honor guard brought in the casket, Dennis David, who's now deceased, Jim Jenkins, and a few other guys that were in there were taking a body to the morgue in a different casket. And they were told that was JFK's body. And so these guys are bringing in what they think is JFK's body. And they got in a big fight. As Hugh Clark tells it, there was almost fisticuffs over the fact that they didn't have the body, that they had the body. And it was a big argument in the hallway for about 10 minutes, seriously. And they weren't allowed to open the coffin. See, there's nobody there that was... This is the part that kills me. I was telling you, seriously, you guys just didn't open them and look, you know, but they were all, you know, staunch military guys that would not break protocol, and none of them were, you know, high enough in rank to open those coffins. So it was just hysterical. I mean, I laugh to this day about that. It's not funny, but it's funny in a weird way, because it's like, what a crazy conspiracy theory. We got two different factions of gentlemen, both all serving in the military, both say they have the body of JFK. Bet you guys haven't heard that one before. It's pretty wild. So anyhow, he's going to be there speaking. And, you know, these guys are not spring chickens. I don't know how many more times I have to say it to everybody. If you're interested in seeing the people that were there, Judith, Hugh, St. John Hunt experienced a lot with his father. I mean, and we have a few more witnesses. We have, oh God, it was just added this week. There's a witness that none of us have ever gotten out in public before, and they're going to make an appearance at our conference. So we've got another one coming out of the woodwork. There's a lot of people who have never spoken, and they're all in their late 80s, most of them, or mid 80s now. And they're dying, and they're like, okay, I guess it's time I talk, because, you know, my family is going to live, I guess, through this or whatever. Most of them were threatened. A lot of them are dead. It's crazy. I don't even know where to start with all this, but I'm telling you guys, there may not be any more of these. So if you can make it there, the price is so affordable. I told the guys, I said, you're just doing this to break even, and you're making it affordable so people can get there, because this is so important, you know? So that's what we did. I'm not going to tell you how much we're not getting paid. And I'm not going to tell you the bad parts of the story, but the good parts of the story is this. You guys can afford to be there, and it's going to be extraordinary. Seriously extraordinary. They found some new stuff in the archives that were released on August 26th that they're going to release for the first time. It's going to be phenomenal. I I don't know what else to tell you guys. I've only heard little bits and pieces about it because I've been too busy to sit on the phone with anybody for any length of time to find out what's really going on. I just said, look, surprise me at the conference. I'm too busy. Call me later. I hang up on them. Oh, God. So anyhow, I'm telling you guys, I don't know how else to tell you. This is my last show before I fly off. Next week, I will be in a plane heading to Washington, D.C., and I'm telling you, if you can get there, please do it. It is so important. So important. I can't even put this into words how important this is. So there you go. Okay, so I'm going to leave that one at that. Now, the other one that's super important, if you're out on the West Coast or anywhere that can get on a $99 JetBlue or whatever, get to UFO Con too, because again, this is the first conference of the year since disclosure, besides UFO Congress, which did address it in a way, and they did acknowledge it. And they did have a set recorded piece with Lou Elizondo. And it was very interesting. But it's not going to be what we're doing. And I don't even know how to describe what we're doing. We're doing the history of the CIA involvement in ufology. I think that's basically what it comes down to. It's basically exposing the spooks and who's running your narrative of what you get to learn about ufology through the Pentagon, through the spooks, through the Men in Black, through the FBI, through whoever's in charge, Department of Defense, the list goes on and on, how many contractors they have. And my favorite spook of them all, I call him, I tell everybody I have a map that looks like the big, the Target logo, and it's got all the players on it, and they go out in circumference rings around the centerpiece, which it's not Tom DeLonge, and it's not Jim Simvan, and it's not any of those guys. My centerpiece is a guy wearing a Darth Vader outfit, and his little face is pasted on there is Bob Bigelow. Because he truly is the Darth Vader of it. Well, you know what? There's one more guy that could be the Darth Vader, but I'm not going to mention his name. That's for the conference, and you guys have to be there to get that one because, man, I'm telling you, we're going to blow the lid off of ufology at this conference. And the rest of the conference is all year long. I can guarantee you this. They will acquiesce to whatever To the Stars Academy is feeding them. They will have their spokespeople there. They will do whatever To the Stars tells them. Tom DeLonge will show up as a special guest. You'll get all that. You'll get, oh, isn't this so lovely? Isn't this amazing? Kumbaya, kumbaya, UFO. You're going to get all that. But you're not going to get the truth. You'll get the truth at my conference, so you guys better be there. It's caufocon.com, and I'm telling you, it's just going to blow people away. And I am not live streaming my event this year. I've decided that I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to do it on demand. At the end of the day, it will probably be on demand. You might be able to get it later. I may hold on to it. I may sit on it for a while. I am not quite sure what I'm going to do with this information. So anyhow, so there you go. So get the caufocon.com. Check that out. It truly is going to be amazing. Oh, and I have to cough, so I'm going to hit the button for a second. There we go. I'm back. See how quick I can do that? Let's see, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. The other part to the conference that I think is beyond extraordinary. Oh, we added Barbara Lamb this week. She's now going to be running our experiencer groups at lunch, which is just truly amazing. I've got Misha Johnson running experiencer groups at night during dinner. So we've got these little sit down, you sign up for them. We're doing it a little different. I'm going to throw this in there. We're doing it a little different. You're going to meet in the lobby of the hotel because I don't really have a room for it. We may put you in the conference room during the lunch and dinner breaks. But what we're asking people to do is, maybe bring a sack lunch or a sack dinner. And when you get to the conference, know you're going to be at the experiencer group, and we're going to have a sign-up sheet. And we're going to keep it limited to like 12 to 15 people, and that's it. And per experiencer group, we're going to have 4 during the weekend. So, and if we don't have enough sign-ups after the first day, then you can sign up to go to 2 of them if you want. So anyhow, that's what we're going to do. So I do hope you guys are prepared for that, because really amazing woman, Barbara Lamb. I mean, the best experiencer group I've ever been to in my entire life. Okay, just had to throw that in there. It truly was absolutely amazing. She runs it in a way that makes you feel like you're not alone, and that's what really matters when it comes to the UFO thing. It really matters. So there's that. Then the other part to this is I did get Steve Colburn to show up, which is, thank God. That's all I got to say. He's our implant scanner. He's the best there is. He used to work with Roger Lear. He truly is a good guy for this. And he's bringing his tent. He's bringing his black lights. He's bringing the whole bit. And we're really going to, see what we can find this year on people's bodies. Now, I must say, last year, people were... I didn't tell you guys about this, I don't think, because I think Melinda told me not to. I may have said it. But let's see if I can talk about it. Yeah, I might as well. Melinda Leslie she had green goo that was glowing on her lips. She also had it on her hands and her arms, and they were in the shape of alien handprints on her arms. And I think, it was her arms and her hand. But she had a ring of it around her mouth as well. But she had been drinking orange juice, and orange juice can do that to you. But we were teasing her, and you guys could just imagine what we were teasing her about if you had alien goo around your lips, okay? I'm leaving it at that. I'm not going any further. But it was quite a wild weekend when she started showing that picture around everybody. Look, see, the aliens were on my body, and they were touching me. I thought they were there. We were cracking up because, boy, we really gave her a bad time. But having said that, you guys, if you really think that you've been, getting abducted lately, if you got things going on, you want to check it out, he gives you like a 50-page report about all the different devices he uses on your body to find these implants. It's absolutely stunning. I do hope you can make it for that alone. Okay, so I digressed again. I can't even remember what I was saying about it, but I'm telling you, oh, yes. The portals and the Zendras, super, super important. This is the next wave. You know how we had the wave in the 50s with the, oh dear, I think my guest is texting me. Let's see, hold on. I'm going to do my producer bit here, my sideline producer. Oh, yeah. Yes, my guest will be calling in shortly. So the whole thing that happened in the 50s with Adamski and that crowd calling in the E.T. brothers, and then the Billy Meyer flap, and then it just goes on and on. Every 10 to 15 years, we have a whole new genre of the type of contact we're having. Well, let me tell you, the type of contact that these people are having in Peru with the Zendras, where 125 people walk into a different dimensional time space and commune with aliens. I'm telling you, folks, this is the next wave of contact. It's going to be the wave of contact. The ships are going to be a superfluous item at that point. They're going to become kind of like, they're watching us. Who cares? Let's go talk to them. That's what it's going to be. And we have one of the best guys who's doing that right now, and that's Enrique Villanueva. And also Grant Cameron has been doing research into this with Enrique, Sixto Paz, quite a few other people that are doing it. And he went up to Mount Shasta. He's going to give a report about what happened last time he was up there. So it's really, talk about extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. And then one other thing that is kind of like near and dear to my heart about the conference is Douglas Hawes. Douglas Hawes is a complete unknown. No one has a clue who this guy is. He approached me about 2 or 3 years ago and said, "Hey, do you know about Canocti Mountain and the UFO lore that goes on there, the legends and stuff?" And I said, "No, I haven't got a clue. What are you talking about?" So he took me up there. And then I started, oh my God, it's just absolutely mind-boggling what this guy has done in research when it comes to what the Canocti legend is. And he gave a great presentation last year, and he's compiled all these books and DVDs and letters and video and audio tapes, and it's just an extraordinary story. And I'm going to be building a website where we're going to house all the Canocti Project legend and lore on. And I'm also going to help him with this new project he's working on called Snakehead Head Point. It's a place up near the high Sierras of Northern California on the way to Reno. And there is supposedly a pyramid there, and it's kind of been buried by the mountain and the lava and God knows what, but apparently there is a pyramid there, and it's way down in a ravine, and then as you step into the area, you can see the pyramid, but you have to be down in this really deep ravine to see it. And it was also the place of a big UFO flap and a UFO cult back in the 70s, I would believe. And he's got a whole report on it. He's been there, and he's also been transported, because what it does is it's a portal to the UFO people of that pyramid, whoever built the pyramid, and he got transported at one point when he was hiking and went down there and slept down there. So he knows it's real, that it works, and that it does its thing, and he's going to do a whole report on that too. And he's mind-boggling, but of course, the big conferences aren't going to have him because he's not a known quantity. He hasn't written 45 books, and he's just not that guy. Right. So, but he's got more information about some of the most phenomenal things I've ever heard of in my entire life. So there you go. He's been researching for 30 years. So, I got him to speak last year, and he's speaking again this year, and I'm just so blessed to have him, and I love his work. So, yeah, so you're going to see things at UFO Con you're not getting anywhere else. So go to check out caufocon.com. That's caufocon.com. All right. I think my guest has joined me. Marshall Barnes, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, good. So glad. I'm so glad to hear your voice. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm pretty burned out, actually. I've been very, very busy. I'm going to be leaving for a series of events in Washington, D.C. next week, so I'm preparing for that. Plus, there's all kinds of other things going on.
When are you going to be there? Because I'm going to be there, too.
Really?
I got a JFK conference there next week from the 9th through the 11th, and I'm flying in on late night on the 7th and back out on the 12th.
Well, I'll be there from the 6th to the 12th.
Cool. Well, what part of Washington are you going to be at?
Pretty much, Washington, D.C., the downtown area. There's a website people can go to see the scheduled events. It's dccoders.org. That's dccoders, CODERS.org. And the full schedule of events is there. There's 3 things I'm doing. One's on Wednesday night, the other's on Thursday, I think, and then the last one's on Sunday.
Excellent.
Sunday being the 11th. Mm-hmm.
Okay, now what's this? What is it all about? Because it looks like, do we live in a simulation is what you're doing on March 8th. And
right.
Then,
the 7th, I'm doing parallel universes.
Great. And then is time travel possible? That's going to be on March 11th.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And then afterwards, we're going to show the season premiere of Timeless on a big TV screen. So
cool.
That'll be very
interesting. Has it happened yet?
Has what happened yet?
The season premiere of Timeless.
No. The season premiere of Timeless is going to be the 11th. It's going to be that night.
I get it. So you guys are just going to put it up on a big screen and go for it and watch it live. I got it. Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Cool. I'll have to record it and see what they do this year. Now, do you think they'll last another year? Let's start with Timeless. Let's just get, right out of the gate. What do you think of Timeless, the TV show?
I think the show had a lot of promise, but I think that Sean Ryan doesn't know what he's doing, and that's why the show got canceled, but then they got it renewed. And I predicted the show was going to get canceled, but the fans freaked out bad enough that they brought it back, but they didn't bring it back for a full season. And, so I think basically what that says is that if the ratings aren't high enough, then, the show's over. And the reason why the ratings wouldn't be high enough, and the reason why they weren't high enough the first time around is because they have inconsistencies that are just obvious in the show in relation to time travel. And it just doesn't work out. I mean, people are not stupid. I mean, some people are, but I mean, as far as time travel goes, a lot of people are understanding how this stuff is really going to work in terms of like paradoxes and stuff like that. Paradoxes don't make any sense. They don't make sense mathematically or scientifically or anything like that. So when you have
Marshall, can I ask
you an example? Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you a dumb question. Who was the first person who thought of these stupid paradoxes? Because I can't find it in history.
Well, it's all comes from science fiction, but then the physicists didn't really rule it out because most of what they were looking at, in fact, they said, well, see, the solution to paradoxes is parallel universes. A lot of physicists don't like to deal with that idea, but it's the only way it works. And now, in fact, my presentation I'm going to be doing in DC on parallel universes shows that we can now prove that they're real. It's not open to argument anymore. We have physical evidence that from experiments that show that parallel universes are real. And so as a result, the whole thing is now shifted. I mean, so in Timeless, Lucy returned from one of her trips, when they did the time travel thing, to find that her mother, who was ill with cancer before, is now okay. And now her sister's missing. And in an episode, which doesn't make any sense, though, because here's the thing. If things change for her, then they would have to change for everyone else because it's about the geometry of the time travel event. It's not what individual people do. And so as a result, they had this woman, her name is Gia, explain to her that on this timeline where they are, why her father isn't really her father from before. And I was thinking, you know what? This is pretty easy to solve right now. It's called a DNA test. And so it was, so her DNA would not be different. Okay, it wouldn't change, and it wouldn't match up to the scenario that G was telling her, because her father would still be the same one. So these writers have their head up their butts. They don't know what they're doing, but they act like they do, and that's what gets me. It's like, see, you have Malcolm Barrett, who plays the black guy on the show. He was on this podcast bragging about his own personal knowledge of time travel, which is just horrible. I mean, he didn't have a single complete, comprehensive sentence of time travel stuff that he talked about. So I wrote an article about it for futurism.media, and then I told him about it on Twitter, and then he started lying. He said, "Oh, you got me. I'm not a quantum physicist, but the people on Lost weren't lost either." And it wasn't about his character. It was about, he said that he himself was a geek, and that he was into this time travel stuff, and so he knew enough about it. So when fans of the show came to him and tried to say, well, this wouldn't work, he could tell them, no, you can't tell me that. And I'm like, what? So he thinks, he lied about his knowledge, and then he lied about how I caught him and why I caught him. So
this is very interesting. They're backstepping every step of the way with that TV show. And I know what you're talking about because I've watched every episode, and I am truly, by the third episode, I'm going, wait, we got problems already. And then it just got worse and worse and worse. And then by the last one, I was like, oh my God, they're not even wearing the right period costumes anymore. I mean, it's getting really bad. So
what happens is that's really interesting you said that, because I tracked the ratings of the show, and right about the time you were saying that you would be certain to notice it was getting really bad, that's when the ratings were dropping off. That's why they got in trouble. What made it worse is that Sean Ryan, the co-producer of the show, he got on Twitter, and he was dissing time travel fans. Okay, he was saying, well, the writers of Timeless, we take our time travel rules very seriously, and for science that doesn't exist, the time travel fans seem to really know what the rules are supposed to be. And I'm like, we a science that doesn't exist. I mean, that's what I'm saying. These people have their heads up their butts. They don't know what they're doing. And that's the only reason why the show suffers, because they don't care, It's just, and they don't get it. They just really don't get it.
They're truly in it to make money, and it's obvious. By the fourth episode, I'm going, wait, this is all about money now. I thought it would really be about time travel, but it's not. So let me ask,
exactly.
You know what we didn't, Marshall? We didn't do this.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot to tell people who you are. You're an advanced concept R&D engineer and conceptual theorist. And I just want people to know that and you're a friend of mine. And we could go into all of your past history, but I think people have heard you enough on Coast to Coast here, my other radio shows, that they probably have a very good idea who you are. But you are our only true time travel guy right now out there that I could call and say, what do you think of this? And you will tell me, and I get the straight facts instead of this crazy, well, we're going to split off into 500 million dimensions and you're going to be living in, 3 universes. And so by the time I'm done, I don't know where I am anymore. So you're the only one who's ever kept me, really grounded in the whole time travel concept. And I really want to thank you for that. So
thanks.
Anyhow, that's what you do, and we could go into all the other stuff he's done, but we got so much stuff to get to tonight. I kind of want to keep going through this. So back to timeless for just one more, little bit of time.
Mm-hmm.
Threw a pun in there. Anyhow, why do you think they even brought it back at all? I mean, what's the point? Why bring back? Just
I know why they brought it back. What happened was that the first of all, the show producers made it one thing that they were going to make it, that they were going to get renewed, and then they didn't. And by close to the time that it came out that they were not getting renewed, I was thinking, you know what, this ain't going to work. And then when the announcement was made they got canceled, the fans just had a hissy fit. And it's not even like a majority of people, because you got to remember the ratings had gone down anyway. Okay. And so as a result, it was just a small minority of people, they're just kind of like, fanatics about the show. And so they do a hissy fit. And so the network decided, well, we're going to go ahead and we'll bring them back next year and we'll give them 10 episodes, which is like, I think, half a season, right?
Oh, they're
so
giving them 10?
Oh,
I thought it was only going to be like 6. Oh, okay. Well, 10.
No, I'm pretty sure it was 10.
Okay.
But I think,
right.
But see, they started out, I think, with 20 or something. So it's like half a season. So basically what that tells me is that unless those ratings are really high, then they've just given them enough time to finish out the storyline of the show, and that's it. So,
yeah.
And if they continue in the same way they had before, I don't think they're going to get a third season. I really don't. But, I could be wrong. So but I'm not wrong.
Well, I love time travel shows. They're my favorite shows out there. They're the ones I watch all the time. I watched all the sci-fi ones. Continuum was my favorite one. It kind of
12 Monkeys.
Oh, I love 12 Monkeys.
The TV
it's
show.
not real.
The TV show.
Yeah, the TV show. I thought it was great. It wasn't really true to time travel form. It wasn't as bad as Timeless.
No.
Timeless lost me after the third one. It took about a season for me to realize that no matter what they were doing, they're still screwing up the timeline. The whole, there is no paradox. So they keep bringing that up in there. But what they were doing was very interesting. I like the fact that they kept going back and finding themselves. At different ages and different times, and it was really fun, and I really enjoyed it. Now, did they cancel that one too?
Yeah, what happened was, I think, I didn't know how many seasons doing a TV version. I'm like, oh god, I liked the movie, and I was just like, I just couldn't see it as a TV show. But then they had this like binge weekend. I think this was back in 2016, and I saw part of that. I'm like, whoa! And I started watching more episodes, and I was like, okay, this is pretty good. I mean, I don't like the fact that they made they personified time. They made it a person. You know what I mean? I wasn't into that, but I figured, what the heck? It's kind of a fantasy thing. But a lot of the other stuff I really thought was really interesting. I got to be hooked on the show, and it was I got to see the last season is what they did. They came out and they did this huge binge watching thing, and then they had the last season, which I can't remember what number that was, but they played that as well. And
wow,
I thought it was really cool. Yeah.
Well, you know what I loved about it was that whenever I watch the machine that they're in and they disappear in that light, I always think of you every time I watch that. Because I think, that's pretty close to what Marshall keeps telling me about. Maybe that isn't so far-fetched,
Well, the funny thing about it was I saw that, and I was like, there is a theoretical way that you could do that. And then there's, on timeless,
exactly.
I know what those bands are supposed to be doing that are spinning around. I know what that is, but I don't know where they got the idea of doing it that way. But I know what purpose that would serve, if you were trying to do a machine like that for real. So it's kind of funny when these shows that have the conceptual stuff wrong comes up. They still come up with ways in which the engineering and the technology could be right.
Well, absolutely. And the first time we saw the bands around the circular craft type of thing, spinning it and gyrating or whatever they're doing, was in Contact with Jodie Foster. Because
those were in the vicinity of the craft. They weren't actually on the craft.
Oh, that is correct. Right.
Right, exactly. And so it's kind of a similar thing, but not exactly the same. The one they have in Timeless is essentially, basically, I would interpret it as creating a torsion effect, whereby they then open up this, wormhole thing around the ship and it disappears. According to Malcolm, if you can believe him, and I have heard them say this before on the show, they're dealing with closed harmonic curves, but that's problematic because closed harmonic curves are not real. They're a mathematical thing that physicists have discovered, and there's a disagreement about how they would operate. And I could go into the 20-minute lecture on them, but it's real-time travel does not involve closed harmonic curves. I'll just leave it at that.
Right, exactly. Now, if you were to do a TV show, I've always wanted to ask you this. If you were going to do a TV show, what would be your mode of taking them to another time? Would it be light? Would it be the circumference rings or whatever they're doing? Or would it be a capsule? Would it be, water? I mean, how would you get them there? Would you build a chair like they did in 12 Monkeys?
No. What we'd probably do is keep us close to what we believe an actual functioning time machine would be like. And they would have probably some kind of, either they would make it from scratch or they would take a car and modify it just so they have something to sit in, a vessel, a vehicle, or whatever. And then they would utilize the different components that, we're actually going to be building for the time machine research that we're doing. And we'll be based on the idea of the participatory universe and quantum mechanical connections to that. It would have something in it that we call a Sling Drive. Sling Drive is a laser apparatus that goes through this pulse sequences that then trigger decoherence of the universe on a quantum mechanical level, but since we're all connected to it, it affects us on a macroscopic level. And they would have something hooked up to it that would connect to the destination in the past they want to go to. And they would have a camera that would be connected to some kind of a sensor device, and then it would be hooked up to the Sling Drive. And what you want to do is when all of a sudden you make that jump, or that translation, I shouldn't say it's a jump. When you make that translation, well, all of a sudden you're not in the present anymore, you're in the past. The change in the visual surroundings that the camera would see would trigger the sensor just shut off the Sling Drive so you don't just keep going,
Oh, now that's interesting.
You want to
Now,
stop.
are you talking about like an XY coordinate in this field you're generating that you know that at a certain point you can measure it that says this is 1979? I mean,
No.
how do you guys get to how do you even get to the past in that situation?
What you're doing is you are causing into existence a parallel universe copy of the past. And when it happens, you're in it immediately. And as a result, there are no problems with, entropy or the conservation of energy or any of that stuff, because that new universe copy of the past didn't exist without you in it anyway. So it's not like, whoa, we're introducing something new to the past that wasn't there before. That's not it. So as a result, that's what happens. But what I was trying to explain was that the camera will see that what it's looking at is different now.
Yeah.
As soon as that difference happens, that the sensor picks that up and triggers the shutdown of the Sling Drive. So you're no longer, making anything else happen. It just stops and you stop. I came with that idea a couple months ago because we had to figure out, okay, how do you stop? How do you control this? How is it going to function? We had to figure out how we're going to test it, and because that's the danger with this kind of activity is that if we were to try to see if it would really work, okay, and we tried to go to the past. Then the thing is, it's like, if it worked, bam, we're there. And if we're not ready to be there, we're in trouble, particularly if we can't get back. And so we had to figure out a way, okay, how can we test this gradually and work up to the point where, we're ready. We know that it should work, and we can prepare for all the things we're going to have to do if we're going to go for real. So that when it happens for real, we're ready. We're there. And that's a whole other ball of wax, because this isn't a tourist. What we're planning on doing is not a tourist trip, okay?
Right, exactly.
We're not going back to see the. Yeah.
Yeah, this isn't timeless. You're not going back there just to hang out and come back to your time. You are going there to live and be in that time space, and you have to make that decision. You know what it reminds me of? Did you ever see The Leftovers?
No.
Okay, it's an amazing show that was, I can't remember what network it was on. I watched the whole thing because it just intrigued the hell out of me. And it was about, I'm not even going to what it was all about, but at the end of the series, it was about 3 or 4 years it lasted. At the end of the series, in the very first episode, people just disappeared. They just disappeared out of this lady's womb, off the street, whatever. People just disappeared, and it turned out to be like an eighth of the population or a fourth of it. And finally, this one woman is so upset about losing her husband and her 2 children. She's one of the ones that lost everybody, that she finally meets up with a group of people that say, we can take you to your family. We know how to get there. They were taken to a different dimension, basically. And so she goes to that dimension and finds out that in their reality, they're the only ones left, that they all disappeared. So there's a very small population of people there, and her husband has found another woman and what have you. And then she has to go through this whole thing to get back to this timeline. Anyhow, bottom line to it all was, it was very intriguing how they did it. They did it with water and her basically dying to get there. So, which was, I found very interesting. So, and they said, you're never coming back. And she made that decision and she went for it, But it's very interesting to me that you kind of have to, in their world and the way they did it, you had to let go of everything here, including your life, to get to that space. So, and thank God we don't have to do that here, though, right?
No, that's metaphysics, not physics. Okay. We're dealing with physics, and You know, and the thing about it is, this may sound really crazy to some people, but this is based on the work in part of Yakira Haranov, who is like the Israeli, I think he's an Israeli physicist who won the National Medal of Science Award like a couple of years ago. And he had the idea of a balloon, and it's kind of complicated, but the key part is he had some kind of quantum mechanical device that was operating, and I call it, you know, a quantum trigger. And this balloon wouldn't take you back in time or whatever, but it would age you or make you younger. And it was just a theoretical thing. But it was critical because when I did my experiments in retrocausality, and now since I talked to you last, we've gone ahead and I figured out an experiment with the laser that would essentially, what it did was it proved the Everett-Wheeler hypothesis that parallel universe is the way that it was interpreted, in being that there's, you know, you have all these different possibilities, and then when you take a measurement, the one you get is what you see here, but the rest of them still exist in parallel universes where that's where you are as well. We were able to prove that one, and we're going to write that up in a paper. But the thing I realized is that this can be used as a trigger, and I'm thinking, and we could use that for a time machine, but how do we connect with the past and all that? And I figured it out. I can't talk about it because it's weaponized. All right, but the thing about it is that, you know, this is based on, you know, work of like, you know, Jonas Wheeler and Yakira Haranov, and even when you think of Schrödinger's cat, where you have the cat in a box with the radioactive material, has a half-life of, you know, 30 minutes or whatever, and then depending on when that radioactive material, if it decays or it doesn't decay, it's going to trigger this release of sleeping gas. We do the Peter version, always do. And that if the gas is released, the cat falls asleep. But until you open a box, you don't know what you've got, and it causes what they call a superposition. And the cat, with the cat being both alive or not alive, that's the original one it's dead, cyanide gas, so it's either alive or dead. But in the Peter version that I say, either the cat's asleep and awake, okay? Until you open a box, and then you see it one way or the other. But the alternate version still exists in a parallel universe. That is the first quantum trigger, essentially, because it's based on something happening on a quantum level, but it's triggering a macroscopic event. And that's essentially what we're talking about. We've got a quantum mechanical device set up so that it's going to trigger a macroscopic event. And that's what's so cool, because there's so much science behind how that would happen. The only tricky part is connecting it to a past event, connecting it to a past. Well, because the universe is based on information, and it's a participatory universe, which is where Wheeler comes in.
Right.
And depending on what we do, we should be able to trigger that copy to come into existence. Now, here's where it becomes fun for your audience, probably. I'm sure most of them know what synchronicity is, right? Think so?
I hope so. I'm sure they do.
What we know already from research is that synchronicities can be created. They can be manipulated. You can bring them into existence. Now, because of that, that is an example of the participatory universe being behind it. Rudy Rucker, who is a famous mathematician, said that coincidences are part of a first-class universe. But when you have a series of coincidences or synchronicities, in other words, you say you have 5 different coincidences, but they're all interrelated, they're all about the same thing, then that takes on what he calls a meaningful arrangement. And that is when you know you've got something. Well, we did research back in the 90s into that. We didn't care about synchronicities unless it had at least 3. They were all interconnected or all interrelated. Then we'd pay attention. And then we'd high five and when they got to 5 or whatever. But the key thing is we understood that. It wasn't until later on, like in the last year, that I started to connect that to the functioning of the participatory universe. So when these weird things happen, it's the participatory universe doing it, at least from our model, okay? Which is pretty consistent. So what we need to do is raise the probability that we will be able to trigger into existence a parallel universe copy of the past. We know it should be possible because it's all information. Right now, we're all information. When the universe is split, and they split all the time, they probably split like 10,000 times since we've been on the phone. When that happens, the copies are possible because it's just all information on a very basic level. So it's only a difference between the way it normally happens, where you're getting copies of the present, and the only thing we're trying to do now is get a copy of the past. And that's it. It's not really that difficult, particularly because we know
I am
so
interested. I'm so interested in the way you're saying this right now, because it's the first time I've heard you talk about it in this manner. And what blows my mind is there is a guy that comes to all of our like UFO and consciousness conferences that says we're splitting all the time, and he thinks it's because of the aliens. And so he's built check this out, Marshall, you'll love this. He's built a device that you go sit in this big old tent booth, and it flashes all these lights at you, and it's supposed to put all of your different selves back together as one. I don't know if I'm laughing because it seems so preposterous, but I've never done it. But he walked up to me once and said, "You know how many times you just split up in the last 30 seconds?" And I said, "No." He goes, 8. You just split up 8 times. I just saw it happening. I'm like, okay. So maybe he's on to something. What do you think?
No, it's just a coincidence. Here's the deal, okay? Here's the deal. This is the way you have to look at it. Of all the people and all the things that are running around and doing different things right now, they're splitting the universe so many different times. It's not even funny. I mean, we're talking thousands, not 8, thousands of times, all right? Wow. Because every time, here's what happens. Over in Afghanistan or something, okay, where somebody almost gets shot, the universe splits, and one, he did get shot, maybe he didn't die. And then another one, he did die. And the other one, he didn't get shot at all. Okay, so the thing is, in each of those, we're there as well. So if it's split like 3 or 4 different times, we're in each of those splits. Now, you multiply that times all the people running around doing all kinds of stuff. Somebody gets in with a near accident. We're in those different splits too. I mean, it's insane. It's really crazy. It's not like 8 different times you might have split. It's like thousands of times because we're splitting the universe by stuff that we're doing. And now, in fact, one of the things I did when I wrote this paper, I'll call it Changing Channel or Changing Worlds like TV channels. I did this experiment of one of these laser ones, and I did it instead of just like shooting off the laser, in different pulse rates. I did it to the beat of Cher's song, "If I Could Turn Back Time," and I ran the audio while we were filming because all our experiments are filmed because we have to analyze them frame by frame in order to see when we get what we call the anomalous hits that show up. And these are hits in a detection area that appear when there's no laser on. And that indicates that we're now in a new parallel universe because the cause of that laser hit is in an original one. And it's what happens is, what's real quick, it's based on these delayed choice, what they call retrocausality experiments, where a photon goes down a certain path, and then they pop up a screen after the photon goes by. And the photon says, wait a minute, I should go the other way. And it ends up disappearing at this other detector as if that's the way it had gone originally, but they know it didn't do that. And so they say, well, we've changed the past, okay? Well, my research was, okay, let's see what the real deal is on this. And I filmed it and all that, and we do get laser hits in these different places when there's no laser on. It just appears out of nowhere. And it doesn't even you don't see the laser pulse appear in a certain area and then hit the detector. It's just at the detector. So the universe says, okay, bam, this is the result that you get because of what you did down here. And so that's really important. So what I was amazed about...
I forgot to ask you about that, the laser hitting. Are you able to measure where the laser hits are coming from in time?
No, they're not coming from anywhere. That's the whole point. We set up a thing where we have a mirror, and we had it so that we could see all the laser activity that was happening, and we had a beam splitter set up, and the beam splitter would send the pulse, that had been split, to an area below the mirror.
Right.
So if you look at the mirror, you can see all the laser activity going on, and then underneath it, when the pulse from the beam splitter was reflected, it would hit in the area below the mirror. So we could see everything, right?
Right.
We got hits below the mirror. Okay? We get laser hits below the mirror that just appeared there. And there was no laser activity in the mirror from the other part of the room. Okay? We just got hit. And see, we thought we could see maybe a laser thing happen in, downstream, so to speak, and then it hit the area below the mirror. But we didn't. We just got hits at the mirror, even though there was no laser activity going on.
Yeah, they're just random hits, is what you're saying.
Yeah, but they were hits. They were random hits without a cause.
Exactly.
They were just there. There was no laser being fired. So and there was no flash of all of a sudden, ooh, there's a laser from over there and it hit the wall. No, we just got a hit at the wall. And we got a number of hits at the wall. Yeah, so what that tells you is that this isn't something coming from another universe. We're just now in it with the result of what would have happened.
Exactly.
And that's what was like, whoa.
Yeah.
But what I was going to say is that...
We got to take a break, Marshall.
Okay,
I want to come back to that when we get back because I just find the laser hit thing so fascinating. So everybody stick around. We got more time travel coming in the next hour. So we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to the California MUFON Radio Show. I'm your host, Lorien Fenton. So happy you guys are with us here tonight. We're talking time travel and all kinds of scientific things that Lorien has a hard time comprehending, but I'm really working on it, and I hope you guys are enjoying yourself. Marshall was just talking about the laser hits he was getting in their experiment, and I was saying I wondered if he could measure them from coming from a different time space or different era in time. How would you measure where they're coming from? And then you explained that that's not how it was working. It's just that you were getting these hits from somewhere, but you didn't know where they were coming from. Is what time they were coming from, correct?
No. We know. It came from the immediate, just seconds ago was where it came from. But the thing about it is they do not. Yeah, but here's the deal. The laser pulses do not enter into where we are and then hit the wall. Because we had a mirror set up so we could see all laser activity going on.
Right,
and then anything from the beam splitter would hit the area below the mirror. And we got laser hits below the mirror when there was no laser activity visible in the mirror. So that means we were only getting hits. We weren't getting pulses coming. In other words, there was no laser all of a sudden appearing and flying across the room and hitting the wall. It was just a hit on the wall. So that tells us that the participatory universe was just giving us results. They weren't giving us process in between. In other words, if you do time travel, there is no real travel involved. You're where you start out, and then suddenly you're where you end up. There is no in between.
Exactly. That makes So that's what you're saying happened with the laser. It was like
right.
Okay, I'm getting it now.
There's a name for it. There's a term for it. It's called discontinuous, which means you get results or something happens that does not have a past that you can easily track it to. And that's why paradoxes in time travel are impossible. There is no continuous loop. Time loops don't happen. All right? They're discontinuous events. If you time travel into 1066, what happens is you translate yourself into a new parallel universe copy of 1066 that never existed without you in it, because it just now existed and you're in it. Okay?
Wow.
And then, and so nothing that you do there is going to cause any changes to where you came from, because they're not connected. And that was what the theory was all along, but my experiments with laser on retrocausality prove it.
Yeah, now I just got confused again. So the place I left, I'm still there. Is that correct?
No. You're not.
Okay.
You're not,
okay.
No.
I was going to say, I haven't heard that before. That's a new one on me, Marshall. Okay.
No, so you wouldn't still be there.
Okay, I'd be gone. But would people remember me?
Yeah, because there's no... Why wouldn't they remember you? There's all that stuff about, you're going to change people's memories or what. That's much of phooey. That's writers from science fiction that don't know anything about physics coming up with that stuff. It's nonsense. There's no basis for it.
Okay.
Yeah,
so I
mean,
still be...
You're not... If people, say, for example, you time traveled, okay?
Okay.
People that you left behind would remember you, just like they would remember if you moved to a different country or you died or something.
Got it.
That's the reason they wouldn't remember. They would forget you.
Okay. That's really cool.
Okay.
I'm glad of that. Because
and nothing that you do in the past is going to change. Nothing that you do in the past is going to change their memories either, because all that stuff is not connected. It's discontinuous.
Right.
So there's no way it can happen. I mean, I'm like Stephen Hawking. You know, I'm a betting man when it comes to science stuff, and I'll sit around and make $5 bets all night with people over stuff like this, because I know they don't know what they're talking about, and I can prove using geometry that that's exactly what would happen. Plus, with these physical experiments we've been doing, which are based on predictions and assumptions of people like René Plaga, who was a German astrophysicist. I mean, it's all settled, pretty much. I mean, the only difference is that none of people know about it, but the science is there, and it's self-consistent. And that's what you want in a scientific theory. And we have physical experiments that back it up. There's 5 factors that I wrote about that support this, that come from other people's work. And so in order for me to be wrong, you have to prove they're wrong, each of those 5 different things. And then you have to come up with an explanation of how we're getting the laser hits out of nowhere that we're getting. It's a done deal.
Right.
It's a done deal.
Okay, well then here's the next question that always comes up between you and I and everybody else is, now that I'm time traveled back to 1969, in the Summer of Love, I'm still 70 or 60 years old, and I'm still there in that universe at 16 or 17?
Yes.
Okay, and so the trick is that we don't run into each other, and if we did, it wouldn't matter, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
It might matter to a younger version of you if she realized that she's looking at an older version of herself, maybe, or something like that. But
no, not me. I've probably run into myself 45 times and not cared or noticed.
Mm-hmm.
Probably in 45 different dimensions or times or whatever. But I'm just laughing because how many times could I do that? Could I, if there was a time machine and each time that I jump back, could I go to another time? Could I go 1 year later? And let's just say I decided I want to just keep going back to when I was born every couple of years. Could I do that?
Yeah, theoretically you could do that.
Wow. And it wouldn't screw up any timelines because they're all being created as I get there, correct? Yeah, okay.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, so let's say that they do have time travel already. How come we're so messed up the way we are? You think that they would go back and keep like trying to fix the problems before they happen, like World War II? You know, I
mean, you got to remember, if you do time travel to fix something, you're only fixing it for that copy of the universe that you're in. It has nothing to do with what already happened where you were. Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing we can do about it. Basically, we're doomed. I kind of think we're doomed.
Well, you can. Well, it depends on what you're doomed from. You know.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, from my point of view, I think we're doomed in the future, which is why I want to escape to the past.
Exactly.
You know. Right.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man, because I every day I wake up and I go, we are just getting ourselves deeper and deeper, and if we ever have another world war, it's going to be on the scale of just insanity. And if we ever have a CME, we're all dead. 93 million people die within the first 48 hours. You know, it's just going to be intense. I mean, people don't understand. The walls will explode from the heat. Your house will just burn up around you. You will incinerate with it. You know, I mean, it just blows my mind how naive people are. There was a congresswoman from Alaska who stopped the bill in Congress so that we could turn off all the grid system if we saw a CME coming. And she stopped it. And, you know, she should be in prison for, you know, terrorism or war crimes, in my opinion. But, hey, nobody understands the dangers we live in until you actually kind of live through it. And a seventh mass extinction would not be something I want to live through, to be honest with you, Marshall.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's just, you know, no food and disease, dead everywhere. I mean, people don't get it. It's just mind-boggling. People who live through the wars understand that. They understand how horrific it can be. And, yeah, I know. And so, what year would you pick to go to if you could?
Well, I'm working on going to 1971.
71. Okay.
Yeah, I have a blog about it on Quora.com. The URL for it is forward to 1971.Quora, which is QUORA.com. And I put posts up about different aspects of what I'm planning on doing and why and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So I've got about 7 or 8, maybe more posts up there now. I'm going to be adding more in the next week or so.
Cool.
So, yeah. But, yeah, 71, I know exactly what I'm going to do. I know who I'm going to see. I got it all figured out. I know I'm going to make a whole bunch of money. Because the one thing I was thinking of, if I could go back to 1971, maybe get a job at a recording studio. And one day it struck me, wait a minute, I know people now who back then would be in a position of power and influence. And I'm going to use them, you know. I'm going to use my connections. And so I started tracking down histories of people, like who knew what, where they were, all that kind of stuff. So I know I'm going to try to get back in 1971. In March, I believe it would be the best time to arrive. And I'd go to New York City, and I would I'm going to do is here's the Fillmore East, which was a big, you know, rock and roll palace in New York City back in the day. I can't remember when, I have to double check because I now I find it out, but their last day, my plan is to buy time, if I have to, from Bill Graham, who ran it, to show us like a 3-minute 16mm film, which I will make here before I leave. I'll shoot on the high def and transfer it to 16mm film so I can show it back then. But it would be a promotional film about me as this new media concept thing, whatever. And I would run ads for it in the local papers and everything. And then people would be talking like, whoa, because I have like this super stereo soundtrack. These visuals like no one had ever seen before. And then, having caused that buzz, I would then make an appointment to see Tony Zanetta, who I know now, who worked with Andy Warhol and David Bowie back when David Bowie first came over to the States, and he was doing Ziggy Stardust and everything. And so I'm going to tell him. He'll be the only person that will probably know the truth, because I want to show up, and he'll know who I am because of this thing I did at the Fillmore. And I will show him a picture. I'll say, well, I need to talk to him in private. I got a proposal. I want you to hear it. And I would show him this picture of he and I together from 1988. And I go, that's you, older, and that's me, younger. And his mind would be blown. But since I know how he is, I know it wouldn't totally freak him out, right? And then I would tell him the truth. I would tell him the truth. I said, look, I need you to get me in touch with Tom Wilson. Tom Wilson was the guy who worked with Andy Warhol, or not Andy Warhol, but Velvet Underground. And he worked with Simon and Garfunkel, a bunch of other people. He was a record producer. But he's a very visionary, but he died in 1978. I said, Gene, I need you to get me in to meet him, because I'm going to save his life. And then we're going to change everything. And what happens is that I would meet this guy, and I would just say, hey, look, we need to take you to the doctor right now. And just trust me on this. I'll give you $200. Just humor me. And we would take him in, and he would turn out he has a heart condition. And he would end up dying in 78 if it didn't get fixed. Okay, but he doesn't know about it. Exactly. Okay. So I'm going to save his life, which will make us pals for like forever, right? And then
I would hope so.
Right. So he had this idea about how you visualize entertainment becoming multimedia and everything like that. And this is back in the early 70s, right? And he ends up going out to L.A., and that's where he has his heart attack. So what ends up happening is I know that Paul Cantor from Jefferson Starship, and around that same time period, was having like ideas about, FM music being on TV with some kind of visual thing going on. So what's going to happen is Paul Cantor, who I ended up meeting in real life, and unfortunately he's dead now, but I met him back in the 80s, and the last time I saw him was in the early 90s. But I know Paul's cool. So me and Tom Wilson we'll get together with Paul Cantor, and we'll start MTV before MTV gets started on its own. With Pitt and the guys started.
What are you guys going to call it? FMTV?
No, I'm going to call it MVTV, music video television, and we're going to completely, change how the whole thing comes together. It won't turn out into the bastardization it is now. It will be
my God, please.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if you fix that in another timeline,
we will.
That would be the coolest thing, because it really got crappy when they started doing those Big Brother, whatever. I want a music video station that's just music videos like they started, and it would be so wonderful to have that back in another timeline.
Right. It will. It's going to be like that. I've already got everything figured out. I even got figured out that, I just start out in the music business as a producer and then get involved in video, and then I will, after I make much of money that way, I'm going to start moving into aerospace. We'll end up having a warp drive in this different timeline, like, before the 80s happened. Or not before the 80s, maybe before the 90s happened. It'll be crazy.
We should have had it a long time ago. This is ridiculous. They've been hiding it from it.
Well, I'm not saying that. I know why we don't have it. It's because they're looking at the problem the wrong way. As Richard Hamming, the information science genius, said, this is something he said for real. I'm paraphrasing it, but this is pretty much what he said. He said, average scientists don't look at important problems. Important problems are things like anti-gravity, teleportation, time travel. And they're important because you got to figure out a way of attacking them when we don't know how to attack those problems. So the average scientist just does unimportant things.
Oh my God! Oh my God!
And so that's the problem. The problem is we haven't had enough, really great scientists to sit around and concentrate on the way to attack those problems. Now I've been doing it, but I'm not average though. Okay. But these average guys are all working on unimportant things, according to Hamming, and it's true. I fell in love with him when I saw that quote. He was like perfect, man.
It's so
I used to work for Bell Labs. And yeah, it was just, there were so many really smart guys that were around back in the day that no one even knows about. It's not even funny.
Well, I hear you. And you know what cracked me up was the fact that nobody seems to want to deal with time travel except for a few people out there. And I don't know if you want to go into that whole story tonight, but there's a guy out there that's making a lot of claims that he wants to go see his father and before he gets sick and dies. Yeah.
I have a quick update on him.
Oh, yeah. What's going on? I know that now we should set the stage for everybody that you've been kind of at odds with Mallet for a while.
No, well, I've not been at odds with Mallet. I've been at war with Mallet. I was
trying to be kind.
No. I'm just telling the truth. I'm just telling the truth.
True.
This isn't a feud. This isn't like, at odds with somebody. I'm at war with Ronald Mallet. Ronald Mallet, I've been able to prove, is a liar, a con artist, and a fraud. And what has happened since we talked last is that more people are taking his stuff down. In fact,
oh, good.
I know a teacher who made some lessons based on him. Now, just to give you an idea, this is what happened. The teacher had in these lessons that Ronald Mallet had a patent on a time machine. Now, I know why that teacher thought that, because Ronald Mallet put out that he had achieved a provisional patent on a time machine idea. It wasn't even a real machine. It was just an idea, okay?
Okay.
What happens is that he never got the full patent. He allowed it to expire. I know this because he told me so, but I also know because I wrote a paper that was an analysis of his patent design, and I called up the patent office because I wanted it to be thorough. And they even gave me a query number, but they said that they gave me the date of when he applied for this provisional patent, and he got it. But a year later, it expired, and he never applied for the full patent. And if you look for him up in the patent office, you won't find him online because unless you go for a full patent, they don't keep and put online the provisional application you put in.
Right.
So, but what it did, this is important. What it did was he ran around saying, "Oh, I got this provisional patent," and people just assumed that he got the full one, right?
Right. Because people don't know the difference.
Right, and he didn't. But he didn't, even though the provisional patent had expired prior to the time that the book about him that was written about him came out. It's not in the book that he let it expire. It's in the book that he applied for the provisional patent, and there's details about that in there. But there's nothing about the fact that he let it expire. So people just assume that he went ahead and finished it out, but he didn't.
Right.
And he did it that way deliberately, so people would assume something that wasn't true, and that's what this guy does. Now, here's the deal. I just said Ronald L. Mallet is a liar, a fraud, and a con artist. If that wasn't true, he could sue me for defamation. But he was not sue me for defamation, even though I've been saying that about him for over a year, and he knows it. The reason he doesn't sue me is because he knows damn well that if we go to court, me and my attorneys will get him on the stand, and he will die a death of 1,000 cuts. Because we will completely destroy.
The death of the $1,000 bill cuts with a lawyer's fee is what he'll be dying.
Well, it's worse than that, because we would get him on the stand. Because I know everything about this guy. I know how he responds to questions and stuff. We'd get him up there, and we would have him basically say the kind of stuff that he would want to say to make himself look good. And then we would deconstruct every single thing, and he would have to admit time after time after time, well, no, that isn't really true. This isn't really true. No, I don't know that. Bam, bam, bam. It would be horrible. And we would destroy him on the stand. And then because he would have put me through that, and this is why he doesn't see me. If he did see me, after we destroyed him in court and won, okay? Because the defense against defamation is the truth. I have everything fully documented. All kinds of business documents, interviews from him, stuff from his book, photos, all kinds of stuff. It would get thrown out, and then I would turn around and sue him back to the Stone Age, all right? And the reason why I have all this animosity toward him is because he screwed me over in more ways than one. And so that's why this is a war. He will not quit unless he is destroyed. I mean, I'm not able to do this anymore, that no one will listen to him.
Well, you know what? I've got to give you credit for being tenacious and going after him. It's really important that people don't get away with this kind of stuff anymore, because we can't be led by fools and thieves anymore. It's that simple.
Well, the thing that makes it even worse is that he was calling for government regulation of time travel.
What?
Oh, easy for him, yeah.
Oh my God, I just almost choked. Are you serious?
Easy for him to say, because he's not really doing it.
Right.
He has no intention. He has no intention of actually trying to do it at all. So he was saying stuff like that, and he says he's gives these lectures on the real science of time travel, but all it is relativity theory, and there are no practical applications or practical solutions from either theory of relativity for time travel. They just aren't there, because they need to go near the speed of light or faster than the speed of light or use a black hole or whatever. We can't do any of that stuff, so it doesn't matter. And it's like Paul Sutter did this video clip in a article for space.com, which I wrote a paper on. And I just deconstructed everything he said. I said, anytime I'm using black holes, oh, great. The nearest black hole is 1,600 light years away. How are you going to get there? People don't think about that.
I know. People are I know. I'm telling you, I wake up some days and I wonder how people think how to get out of a paper bag, literally. I really can't get it, But, wow. Yeah.
So
it's amazing.
There's two problems.
What bothers me the most about all this, Marshall, what bothers me the most is he's, and God bless him, I hate thinking ill will of people, but how does he get all this publicity? It just blows my mind. It's like, I don't understand. Yeah.
I know how. Here's the deal. He has this interesting story, this personal story. Oh, when I was 10 years old, my dad died, and I was so upset. And then I saw this comic book about H.G. Wells' book, The Time Machine. And I thought maybe I could build a time machine and see my dad. And I tried to build a time machine, but I didn't know what I was doing, so of course it didn't work. And then I found out about Einstein and how Einstein had this theory of relativity. And so I thought, well, what I need to do is I need to become a scientist so I can do physics, and then I can build my time machine. And then he goes on and talks about how he couldn't afford college, and he went to the military so he could get a GI Bill and all that kind of stuff. And then he spent time doing research on black holes and keeping his interest in time travel a secret. And then he claims he has found a solution inside of Einstein's general theory of relativity based on the gravitational effects of light, and he thought he could make a time machine that way. Here's the deal, though. It turns out, number one, that his calculations were wrong. And he has since admitted that it will take energy, stellar quantities, in order for him to be able to affect time the way he wants to try to do it. And number two, there are all kinds of engineering problems based on temporal mechanics or connected to the nature of time itself in his design, which I've written about. And part of those problems have to do with the idea he's supposed to be creating closed time-like curves. And long story short, he wants to create a stack of closed time-like curves. And then he thinks that will then send a particle that you send down in the middle of these back in time. He's forgetting that what he's really describing. Yeah. What he's forgetting is this, because he says it's going back to Slinky. But what he's forgetting is this. The closed time-like curve, let's just say, goes back in time. I mean, it's only part of it is in our time zone or our time space, whatever.
Right, exactly.
And if you have a stack of them, what you're really looking at is a solution from not thermodynamics, a solution from fluid dynamics. Okay, where you've got these curves, and they're going to be affecting the space that they're in, but they're not going to be affecting time. And that's what he's talking about, because it's almost like he's saying they're like propellers or something, but they're not really propellers. Not part of them is even going to be here, and the rest goes back because it turns everything around into a loop. And when he describes it, he doesn't complete the description properly, and so you end up with something that isn't what he thinks it's going to be. And the funny thing about it is, in his book, he says that he learned early on that he didn't have the aptitude to be an experimentalist. Okay, to be an experimentalist. And I'm thinking, hey, dude, if you don't have that, then you're not going to be able to, you're not going to be able to understand what you're doing theoretically.
Well, it sounds to me like his theory of the way he's working might just create a loop, but it would come back into some other time, and you wouldn't know where you'd end up. I think wouldn't that be the case? From what the way you
it's more problematic. Well, it's more problematic than that. Number one, it's probably not going to work because he says that the loops are closed sunlight curves. So how are you going to get anything in them? And he doesn't say he's going to get anything in it. He says he wants to stack these, and then they're going to affect the space and time that they're rotating in.
No.
You're not going to get full rotation because part of them is going to be back in time. And I don't believe closed sunlight curves even really work. Because here's why. We know now if you do anything that's going to affect the past, then you cause a participatory universe to produce a parallel universe. So the minute that closed sunlight curve would start to turn back toward the past, man,
right?
There you go.
It's creating another past, is what it's doing,
right.
And then you got a whole bunch of them, and then where do you end up?
Well, no. It's not that. That's not the problem. It's just it would create another past, and if you were on that line, you would end up there. But that's about as far as it would go. That's what I'm saying. Close sunlight curves are problematic because people just make assumptions about them. I mean, when I say people, I mean physicists even.
Okay.
And it's like they just assume, it's going to be like this week. It's going to be like going around and around and around. You go back to the past and you come back to the future again. And you're like, it's like, wait a minute now. And then they have a problem with coaching horizons, which can amplify energy that would go through that geometry, and that's where Stephen Hawking's chronology protection conjecture comes in. It's very problematic because there are arguments against that happening, and on top of it all, no one's seen one. There are no closed sunlight curves that we can look at. They're all theoretical.
Okay. Well,
when people say they have in simulations, but those aren't real.
Okay.
So it's like, why even bothering with this stuff?
Right, because it's going to take a lot more to make it work than your concept. That's for sure.
Right.
And second of all, it sounds to me like it would just blow me up into a million little molecules.
Well, that's what Stephen Hawking says.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically because you're not going anywhere. You're just disintegrating, basically. I mean, that's what I'm picking up out of this.
Well, the energy
did work
build
at
up
all.
and then it would explode.
Oh, great.
That's what Hawking says.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, I see his point. Absolutely. I don't think I want to explode today, so I think I'm just going to go with your theory, okay?
Right.
I think yours will work. So anyhow, well, you know what? We've got an exciting thing we're going to talk about in the last 20 some odd minutes of the show. I've been waiting, like a kid in a candy store, because I've got the website up here. Marshall is starting a new company. Do you want to tell them how this started for you? I think it was because I called you and told you about Tom DeLonge and To the Stars Academy, and then
right.
Yeah, so tell everybody how this kind of happened for you.
Well, what happened was that I was on another show of yours, and you were having a hissy fit over Tom DeLonge.
A hissy fit, yes.
And I'm like, Tom DeLonge, and I mean, it sounds like a porn star's name.
I know.
And he's in this thing called To the Stars Academy, and I'm like, I didn't know what you were talking about, but then you started describing to me what they were saying they were going to be doing. And I'm like, okay, well, I know what that is, because you didn't know what engineering a space-time metric meant. And I did. And I'm like, well, I'm already doing that, you know? And so the bottom line was, after I got done with the show that night, like the next day I looked them up on the internet, and I got the lowdown on the whole thing. Well, the funny thing about it is, the way they describe the company, it's like somebody looked at my resume and said, let's make a company based on Marshall Barnes. Because everything that's in there is stuff I already had plans for before anyway, including the STEM stuff. I mean, I've won awards for my work in STEM education, not STEM cells, but science, technology, engineering, and math. I was number one. I was the top STEM scientist for National Lab Day for 2009 and 2010. And I've got all kinds of other recognitions as well. Oh, you know, I do that, but they've got that in there. They've got their advanced propulsion thing in there. They've got all this other stuff. Consciousness is in there. The funny thing about it is they don't really have anything for any of it. You know what I mean? They don't have any technology. They're talking about building that plane. That plane's going to cost millions and millions of dollars to build. They don't have, aside from their entertainment division, they don't have a business model to make money. All right? And they've raised about $2.5 million so far.
Yeah, it's gotten to be more, but go ahead. Yeah, it's up around $3 million something now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, here's the deal. Now, without going way back, I had for years this idea of some kind of a super company, so to speak. I mean, it was influenced in a way by Sig Sputnik and their idea of this Sputnik Corporation. They were this rock band from the 80s. But at any rate, and then there was in Fringe, just to cut to the quick of the story, Fringe had this company called Massive Dynamic.
Yeah, they did. I loved them. I love Massive Dynamic. Yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. So I had ideas for doing something like that for a long time. So when I saw what they were doing, what Two Stars Academy was doing, I was also interested, as we've been talking about doing time travel. I was thinking, you know what? I should because my problem is this. I want to make a bunch of money because I'm going to need it back in time because I'm going to have to start over again. And I don't want to start off as working as a cashier, as I've already said, right? All right, so I only need money. And I also want to pay off my investors I've got. So what I decided to do was okay, I'm just going to take everything that I've got and everything I know how to do and everything that I know that can be developed and just turn it into this company. And just everything's for sale. And we'll use it all in this company, and then we can sell the company, and I can walk away, and my investors can stay with it if they want to, or whatever. I even figured out the perfect buyers for this company after we've gotten it established would be probably several different entities, one of which would be a TV network. But at any rate, what we've got is a company that has 15 different divisions. All right, and the website's up. It's not finished. It's just like a starting page, so to speak. But those divisions include aerospace, science, technology development.
We should tell everybody where to go so they can look at this as well, so they can see it while we're talking about it. So why don't you tell them how to get there, Marshall? Just
go to techofinfinity.wordpress.com.
Okay, that's tech.
T-E-C-H.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Go ahead. You finish.
Of infinity.wordpress.com. Tech of Infinity is one whole thing. It's short for Technologies of Infinity, which is the name of the company.
Great. Okay, and I'm on it right now, and it says a company from beyond the future if you scroll on down. And they just put this up on February 22nd, and there we go. So why don't we start with the first one at the top?
Oh, that's aerospace. And essentially, the aerospace division is going to be developing, we already have warp drive technology. It doesn't work the way the Alcubierre drive works, but it is warped because it contracts. It's a special kind of field that contracts space as it moves through space. And so we've got, areas that we're looking at in terms of using that. And also there's a new alternative that I'm thinking is theoretically possible that would actually get you to, other galaxies, faster warp drive. Warp drive, I believe, is going to have limitations to it. It would get you there faster than where we can go now, but it's not. I mean, space is so huge. It's so big. You just don't understand it unless you really sat down and looked at what it really means.
As a human, space is it's a killer of humans. Basically, you've got to figure out a way to go into stasis for many thousands of years to get around if you're really going anywhere.
Go ahead. What we really theoretically come up with is it's based on that time travel technology I was telling you about. But what you do is, you're in your spaceship, and then you have a similar technology as I was describing before. But what you do is you translate yourself to another spot out there in space.
Oh.
So you just jump, and then it's like you do that, and wow, I mean, there is no travel in between. You're here and you're there. And
that sounds like what the aliens do already. Really?
Well,
Yeah, I mean, so you're an alien amongst us. I hate to tell you. No, but seriously, that's when I've seen the ships, the two I have seen, they're just not there anymore. They're in another, they're gone. I wouldn't doubt that they're folding time to get to where they're going. That is how I've always put it.
Well, this would do...
That's what you're doing, but you know what I'm saying.
Right, exactly. What this would do is this would work with the information basis of the universe itself that's connected to quantum mechanics. And it would just, go, okay, we're here right now, but we want to be over there. And raise the probability that you could be over there. And just, because it's not zero. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The probability that you could be there is not zero. And maybe close to zero, but it's not zero. And so you just amplify that probability, and then, bam, you're there.
Wow. You know what? The other thing this sounds like is what happened to Ralph Ring, if the story is true. Do you know about that? Ralph Ring's story?
Vaguely familiar.
Yeah, he and Otis Carr, who was Tesla's assistant, built for some company, I don't remember the whole story now, a small flying saucer. And Otis Carr had said that Tesla had figured out the barrier between time and space, and that he could move them in that ship wherever they wanted to go, and so quickly that they wouldn't remember it. And he did. And what his instructions were to them is when you get to where you're going to go ahead and pick up some dirt on the ground when you get out of the ship, put it in your pockets, and then when you're back, we'll examine it. Well, the other problem they had, Marshall, that Ralph always wonders about is why they couldn't remember it. See, they did do it. They traveled all the way down Apple Valley and came back, and there were people that saw the ship out there doing its thing, but it happened so quickly for them that they couldn't remember it happening. They thought it was a failed experiment. So isn't that interesting?
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
You should talk to Ralph sometime, and he has some insight into this. He thinks it's more of a bilocation, but I don't know. I just don't know.
Well, at any rate, so aerospace division is going to be doing all kinds of interesting things. We have a science division that's going to be looking for new answers to questions. We have a technology development division, which is going to be developing technology that's going to be used by aerospace and some of the other divisions that we have. The space division is going to be... Can
you please build me a flying car so I don't have to drive anymore that flies by itself, please?
There's people that have already done that.
I know,
you can buy one now.
How come they don't let us all have one then? I want one. I want to buy one. $30,000. I won't spend a penny more.
Well, we don't have a flying car division because there's so many people who do that. There's smaller flying cars, there's a bunch of them.
Yeah, I interviewed him. Yeah, he's a pretty cool dude. I enjoyed talking to him, but he's working on the old jet engine principle of I'm a helicopter. Really, is what it is. I'm not into ones that got props. I want something to have some kind of warp drive in it before I'm getting it.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Well, that would be anti-gravity. So,
yes.
Yeah. Right.
That's what I want.
But I don't know how to do anti-gravity. I haven't messed with that.
Well, someday you'll be able to hire people that will do that for you, though. I can tell you that right now. And that day isn't too far off. Okay, so space is your next one?
Right. Space includes space exploration and commercialization of space. One of the things we want to do is partner with other companies because I've actually done things in the aerospace community. I've lectured at major space conferences before. I know people that are involved with space companies. And one of the things we're looking at is doing events on the moon. And they will include like auto races and stuff like that. Because you can have an electric car and you don't have to have a breathable car, or even fuel-injected carburetor or anything like that. It's not. These are engines that don't breathe air like a regular car does. Okay, so you can run them on the moon. You can't take a regular car to the moon. So you could have lunar races, and each car could have little cameras in it, and so you would get the different perspectives as well as the cameras around the track and all this kind of stuff. And it would be really cool looking. There's a French company that kind of did some visuals, some artwork depicting that kind of thing, and it looked great. But I have, in the actual materials for the company we're developing, we have a full-blown description of a number of space tourism activities on the moon that we would be doing. And so we see all kinds of potential. Everything from things happening on the lunar surface to tours where people can fly from Earth to the moon, just do a flyby, just to see it, and go to the dark side as well and come back, that kind of stuff.
Cool.
So that's what Space Division will be doing. Biomed will be looking at different cures for I have a cure for the common cold, and I've used this since 1986. And there's some companies out there who have kind of come close to the same thing, but they don't have exactly the same thing. So we would start. That would be our little initial foray into biomed. There's other things I think we could get involved with as well, but at least we have something to start out with. Advanced automotive. We have ideas about how to make a special kind of car that doesn't run on electricity or fuel. And the best part about that is that we figured out how to develop and manufacture and sell this without doing the normal, doing it the normal way that everyone does. It's a completely different business model, but it would work. And we know there's a market for the car because the car wouldn't be made from scratch. It would be retooling and modifying already existing cars. So people will be buying an older car, but the thing about it is they would have to put gas in it. And we already did our marketing on that and order test marketing on that. And people said, "Hey, I don't have to put any gas in it. I don't care." So bingo. And so that's what the advanced automotive thing would do. Then there's musical technology because I have a musical background. Probably enough like Tom DeLonge, but
you probably have. Well, I better keep quiet. I bash the poor guy all the time. I got to be at least nice and say his music's pretty good, okay?
Yeah, I don't even know that much about the band, but this band was
I've heard him a couple times. Blink 182 and right. Somebody, Angel something, I can't remember what they were, but they were okay. Mm-hmm. Anyhow.
Right. But anyway, what I did was I've been involved in music longer than him because I'm older, and I got started in my teens. And I was always interested in the technology aspect of music because most of my favorite rock musicians were also technically oriented, like Todd Rundgren and people like that. So as a result, we now already have technology in different areas that's more advanced than anything anybody else is doing right now. In fact, I've been able to come up with a way that we could enhance music to such a degree that we have to be careful how we would market this, because if you hear it, it's so incredible that you get high from hearing it. Your brain just goes on an endorphin high because it's like, wow, and what we're doing is we're not changing the music itself. We're not running everything to a flanger or a phase shifter or something like that. It does not affect the quality and the actual dynamics of the original recording. You just hear it completely in a different way.
Now, that's very interesting because, they're now writing music for sports enhancement and running and yoga and meditation because they take you into different waves of theta and delta and what have you. And what I found, or they release endorphins or whatever it is, whatever frequency they're adding to this music. But the music is not your common hit parade of music. It's music they've developed, and it gets repetitive and somewhat boring, actually, I hate to tell you.
That's because they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
I can do this for any kind of music, and it would not, for example, I could do this for a country music album. I could do this for a bluegrass album. I could do this for a hip-hop album. I could do this for a heavy metal album. And
Pink Floyd for us old people.
Or whatever. But it would still sound the same. But you would experience it in a completely different way. And that's what triggers the endorphin thing. But it would still have, bluegrass is performed on very basic acoustic instruments. Mm-hmm. So we're not going to be making it sound all spaced out or anything. It's not going to change anything about the tonal quality of the instruments themselves at all. But you just hear it differently, and that's the secret. So we've got that plus a bunch of other stuff. In other words, the key thing I'm trying to express is that we already have things that we can do with this. We're not looking for ideas from anybody else the way Cheer Stars Academy is.
Right,
but
exactly.
We have the consciousness division.
Yeah, consciousness. I wanted to talk to you. If we get to nothing else in the rest of the show, we only have about 4 minutes left, is consciousness just blows my mind. So what would you guys be doing with consciousness? I mean, how do you even do something with consciousness? Do you measure it? Are you going to give us expanded consciousness? What's the plan?
Well, essentially what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing research in mind-machine interfacing kind of things. We're going to be doing things. Yeah, we're going to be doing things that will expand consciousness. For example, one of the things we'll do in consciousness is there's this one thing having to do with duration dilation, and it was something that I think the Army's interested in, and we were looking at ways to induce it so that if you get into a firefight, you automatically go into duration dilation, and that makes you a better warfighter. It makes your actions better and everything like that. And what David Eagleman had done, he did a study, and he claimed initially the one that got most of the publicity, a duration dilation where everything seems to slow down for you. It was actually, he said it was elongated memory. It's not. I applied one of the things I developed from conscious research called technocognitics. I did a technocognitic analysis of his research and found that it was not. He was wrong. It's not a subject of or a product of elongated memory. It actually happens for real. And his methods of testing it were wrong. So, there's all kinds of things we can do with consciousness. We got a military division we're going to be doing, which would do all kinds of things from, technology research to actually making things that can be put into out in the field.
Oh, the
That's
Department of Defense is going to love you. Requests for proposals for Department of Defense are going to end up on your desk.
Right, exactly.
Then you can be like the rest of my friends. You can't tell me what you're doing anymore. I love that.
So we'll have that. We'll have that, and we already have things that can be applied to that already. Then there's an art division. There's an art division because I've been looking at the business of art, and we're pretty close to being able to break into that on a high-end level, where we can create stuff that nobody else can do. We only do like one version of it, and collectors will buy it for like a big dollar amount. So that's just like something for fun that will make money. Then there's a live entertainment tech division, which will have technology for live entertainment events. It's unlike anything that already exists. We've already got the plans for it. Thematic events. Those are events where we're going to be doing things where it's like the movie The Game, for example. I don't know if you know what that was about, but
I love that movie. I absolutely adore that movie.
We're doing stuff like that, but on a larger scale that would be incredible. Excuse me. And then we're also going to get into licensed versions where, like, for example, we might take something from a movie, and then do it. You would pay to go somewhere. And then
I would be like in Star Wars. Oh, God, I love that. Real-life visual role play, but with all the enhancements, right? I'd have a real lightsaber. This would be great.
Well, maybe not a real lightsaber, but it would be incredible. And then, like, there's the STEAM education, which is, science, technology, art, math. That's in there. And then Blue Sky R&D is essentially the division where you just sit around and just go, what if? And you're just like, come up with crazy ideas just to figure out if any of it makes sense or not. And then, to see what we can come up with.
And then see what you
can
come up with.
That's our company.
That's great.
That's our company.
You know what? I'd invest in that. That is really cool. I would not invest into the stars. It didn't feel it, man. I had no desire. This gives me goosebumps. It makes me want to.
And we're not trying to do anything with aliens. We already have our plates full.
Well, yeah, no, they're not doing. You know what, Marshall, and we're running a little overtime. I hope that's okay, FJ. But they're not doing anything with aliens either. They don't even want the name brought up to the whole thing. They're really trying hard to do disclosure without aliens, which really pisses me off because it's like, oh yeah, well, who's driving the damn things? They just appear out, with no consciousness behind them. Whether they're alive as a ship or there is somebody inside of them making them move, God almighty, you can't just ignore it. And see, that makes me mad. It's like, if they're going to come out with disclosure, let's just do it for real. No bullshit. But whatever. I don't even care anymore. I just want to time travel. I can care less about aliens. Because they haven't eaten us yet, and they haven't bombed us, and they haven't killed us. So obviously they're not doing a whole lot to us. We're all still here, examining our navels as humans. So, yeah. Unless they plan on a big invasion, then you and I better get out of here.
Right.
That's the only thing I gotta say is there'll be a lot of people wanting to time travel the minute the CME's coming at in 12 hours, and 93 million people are going to be dead in 48 hours. Oh my God, it's crazy. Okay, well with that we got to close out the show. Marshall, thank you for being with me. And is there anything anybody could do? I mean, could they come to the DC Coders Conference?
Yeah, right. I'll give that out again. Go to the URL DC Coders. That's DCCODERS.org. I'm going to be in Washington, D.C. doing events there, and the schedule for the whole thing is at that site. And you can always check me out on Twitter on Quora.com. Check out my blog at forward to 1971.Quora.org, or Quora.com rather. And also, you can get more information if you go to about.me/Marshall R&D Engineer. We couldn't do R&D, but it's Marshall. It's about.me/Marshall Barnes, RDENT. I like to put an and in there, but I can't do it.
Yeah, and one of these days we will actually have a website up for Marshall. It's just going to take me a while to get it done for him. I promised him by the summer if I can get my act together here, and that'll just be an enhancement to his beautiful technology in Technologies of Infinity Company. There we go. So wonderful. Mm-hmm. Well, I you know what, Marshall, stay on the air. I mean, stay on the line because I want to talk to you after we're over tonight. Now, next week, folks, I'm on my way to DC. And I just want to say, pray for me and pray that the JFK, conference goes well and that all the guys make it. And that's always a big thing. And if you guys can make it, please do, because we really are going to have an amazing time. Just think. Thursday night, you can go see Marshall, and then on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, you can go hang out with me. And then on Monday, if you want, you can go to the Spy Museum with me and the Cold War Museum with me. It's going to be really a fun weekend. So there you go. We've added Marshall into the mix as well. So I do hope you guys can make it. If you can't make me, make Marshall's event at dccoders.org or go to jfkconferencedc.com. Good night, everybody. I'll see you here.